highlights,
insight,
reports.
updates,
This is the progress,
progress.
the Progress Report.
When we're discussing satisfaction, I always like to take the public back to reflection because the public would have to judge satisfaction based on service given to them. Whilst I might feel satisfied, it is more important to me that the public is satisfied. So if we step back in time, and I will take individually the departments that we have here, and I will first start off by the fact that 5 years we had in this country no Ministry of Labor. And so the commitment we made, the PPP Civic, to the Guyanese people that once elected, we will reestablish the Ministry of Labor. That first had to be done. And so you're coming in 2020 August from a place of no ministry. That means no structure. And if you don't have the type of structure existing, that means you can't give service. So that's the backdrop of where we're at January 2023. So if we look at Board of Industrial Training, I want to start there firstly, because of its importance in the scheme of things for the future of this country and its development. When the APNU FC was in government in 5 years, average they trained 1,300 to 1,500 persons per year. And the public, you have to pay attention to the fact that when they came into government, the same month or thereabout, it was announced that we found oil in the waters of Guyana. And therefore, coming to Guyana was a new sector, oil and gas. And by 2019, we started production. So you'd want to believe, you would want to think rather, that in that 4 years, the government would have ramped up technical and vocational education and training. But that didn't happen. Never happened. There was no thought as to what the needs of this new sector we would have to develop. And secondly, all the spin-off from the sector itself, the other technical jobs that we have to train people for in Guyana. So during that whole period, they were training, as I said, 1,300 to 1,500 persons per year. In large measure, Board of Industrial Training was just an operation on the coast. And so, interland regions, riverine communities, they didn't know that the state had a facility to give a lot people second chances, so to speak. They had no access to it. They weren't introduced to it. So you had to expand Board of Industrial Training. You had to appoint technical officers in all regions, and that is what has happened. In some regions, you have 2 technical officers because of how it is stratified. So you have to put people close to people to give service. Because, let me use one example. Supposing under APNU, you had several young persons who want to be trained. They live at Eichalton. The Board of Industrial Training Office only existed in Georgetown. How will they access first the entity? Not the training, I'm not getting trained. Because somebody got to jump on a plane or pay a bus. Who's paying for that? So now you don't have that. You have in Region 9, I use that specifically to make the point. You have in Region 9 3 technical offices. And you know Region 9 well enough to know that one cannot and will not suffice. So the first one was appointed at Letem. Subsequently, one was appointed in North Rupununi, based at Anai, to deal with, and about 6 months ago, we appointed one to the Karasabai side. And what is important for the public to note, all 3 of the offices in Region 9 belongs to Region 9. All 3 of the offices are Amerindians of Region 9. And all 3 of the offices, most importantly, are young females. So that. And so I use Region 9, but we can speak to the other regions in large measure. Today we have training programs happening in Moroccobai, which is 95 miles from the coast. They never know bit existed. Orialis Peruta, never know bit existed. The Ole Palm River, and I can go on and on, but I know the public would have grasped the point. So wherever people reside, you have service to them via training. And you know, what was sad in all of that is that the interland and riverine community, they need these opportunities more than people on the coast. It's not that the people on the coast don't need the opportunity, but these places, because of where they're located and the paucity of opportunities, they needed this type of training more than thing. So that has been dealt with. Now, we moved from 13 to 1,500 persons per year in 5 years under APNO AFC. We came into office August, and by the end of 2020, we would have trained 2,000 persons. So, 2021, we trained 3,086 persons. And as I speak to you, we're still counting the numbers, which will end up over 4,000. It is only a blind man, blind not in the sense of not understanding how development works. You have to be so silly not to understand. You have to train people first. You could have all the jobs, the multiplicity of jobs, but if you don't have trained persons, all you're doing is wasting time. And one of the major issues we are faced with as a nation is that we have all of these jobs, more so new types of jobs. And I give you one example, I come back specifically to jobs. The ILO just did a study, and the second most needed profession in Guyana is environmental and occupational and safety health officers. You understand? You think 10 years ago, that profession will not be at number 2. You understand? So I'm trying to show how the dynamics about labor force it has changed and is changing. And for young people who are listening, they have to capture the moment and don't be fascinated anymore about those disciplines that they were fascinated once about. Because the landscape has changed. It's changing. If you look at the 11 major employment that we will need people by the hundreds in this country, it's not a lot of things that people want to go to University of Guyana. or people still fascinated about? I just named one. Because if you're talking about development in all its facets, you must be talking about safety, the need for safety. You're talking about all the infrastructure work to be done, all the housing to be done, the expansion of the oil sector. And you know, at the moment, all the oil we're discussing as regards production is just ExxonMobil, you know. So think about it. With ExxonMobil alone, exploration, average 11 billion barrels, we as a nation, we were not prepared. Well, there are two things. Right now, we are doing the tracer study, which is the follow-up, the point you're asking, because I don't want to glibly put numbers. I want it to be done scientifically, and you have a proper analysis. And I can share the numbers with you. It was just given to me the other day. We have so far reached, I think, 500 and a little over 500 persons who did training in 2021. So I don't want to give you false numbers, but I can make that information available to you so you can use it. But we are doing the tracer studies. We have established a bit monitoring and evaluation department, at least 3 officers there, who they're tasked with doing that type of work. So when we give numbers, they're true numbers, reflective of what is happening out there after training. Not just holistically, but in the independent regions. So that number we have that I can get to you. But beyond that, the issue about self-employed people, that's a fundamental issue. I don't know we want to train everybody to go work for somebody. We have to train people and teach them how to establish their own businesses. And that expands the pool of people in the area of employment. Because if every small business can hire 5, 10 persons, you see, so it's more small businesses, more jobs, right? So, but we are working on that. The Central Recruitment and Manpower Agency that you're asking about in a definitive way, the last number, more than 2,000 persons have accessed the job board that we have. That is free. I think about 10% of those already they found a job. Not necessarily persons we trained that bit, but I'm talking about people you know, importantly, you know, I had a meeting with the Minister of Labor Barbados. You know, they requested we make our job board available to them. You follow the point I'm making? So, because they have an interest of the people coming to Guyana to participate in the development. So we have made that available. And we will make it available to any CARICOM country so that they can understand what is happening here. And all companies can put advertisement on the job board free of cost. It has no cost attached to it. Anyone who's seeking a job can go on the job board, put up all your credentials, and you can interface with employers. Of the 2,000, as I've said, a little over 10% of the persons, they have been placed in jobs, and that is a continuous process that we have to. And these are not necessarily persons who were trained by BIT. As regards BIT itself, we are doing the tracer studies, and we just have preliminary numbers. But going back to training and jobs, the Boy Scout got a simple motto. It said, be prepared. You know? And so, if you don't have the technical skill, all the opportunities will pass you by. So they're two different things. Whilst they are interlinked, training and jobs, they're two different things that people should not get confused about. You know, and the thing is, these chanters, you could never please them. If you weren't training people, the screaming would have been, young people are not being trained. As I said, 7,500 persons trained in 2 years and a couple months. About 50% are females. In a lot of the areas where women were not participating in today, in some instances, they equal men. Where there's heavy duty equipment operator, welding and fabrication, construction, and those things, plumbing. I'm showcasing, if you follow my Facebook, a boat that was built in the Pomeroon River to be used by the ministry in a village named St. Monica. 9 persons being trained, 7 were young women. Boat building skills. So today they can and they have built a boat. Save me some money, right? In one. But the point is, so women are now participating in those skill sets and training that they, I have seen NCN did some good work regarding showcasing people who can make their own comments. And that is the reason why I'm making the point. It is for the public to say to the public how satisfied they are. So we will continue to do training, and we will continue to ensure that people can be employed. One of the important things, we want to do a lot of engaging entities to allow for apprenticeship programs. That is one of the best avenue to get people employed. We are having conversations with companies in oil and gas. We have started a conversation with the University of Guyana that says, and I've commented publicly on this matter, the great failure there is where people are not trained beyond the books in their field that they want to pursue. And therefore, I believe the university must have a procedure whereby every final year student should be working someplace, actively engaged in their profession, so that the thing that you have where people are told you have the qualification but you don't have the experience, we can bring that to an end. That is the only way you can bring it to an end, so that I wouldn't see young people by the dozens on Facebook telling us how much degree they got and they ain't got no job. So we hope to develop that conversation with the University Council, the Vice Chancellor and the team at university, and work together to ensure that people participate in internship, apprenticeship, whatever you want to call it. So that's an important issue. We continue to sign MOUs with international companies regarding higher training, type training within the oil and gas. As we are moving again from 2020, we had 32 persons died workplace accidents, most in the mining and construction industry. 2021, that decreased by 16% or some 5 persons. 2022, there will be another decrease. The last number I had somewhere around October, November, was 20 persons who died most in mining and construction. So there is a constant decrease. I don't like to speak too much about the numbers, because for me, those persons are not statistics. They're breadwinners of families. So when I'm dealing with this matter, I deal with it from this standpoint. I'm talking about a person. I'm talking about a 24-year-old man. I'm talking about a 42-year-old man who left 5 picnics for a woman to look after. And, I was asked to speak at an international conference on this matter about a year and a half ago. And I started my conversation with listing the names of all of the people, their names and their ages, in a dramatic way, to make the point that the Minister of Labour, Hamilton, in Guyana, when I'm talking about this, I'm not discussing statistics. I'm discussing people's children, I'm discussing husbands, I'm discussing fathers, I'm discussing wives and so. So that is the way I see this matter. So we are decreasing, but as I said earlier, when I was talking, I think off of the camera to you, that is a skill set that we don't have enough persons in this country based on the ILO study that was just released. The second job, profession that will be most needed in Guyana is environmental and occupational safety and health. Well, one of the important things we're doing is we engage entities, whether private sector or public sector, government institutions, and we have helped them to, in some instances, resuscitate health and safety committees, because the law says once you have more than 19 employees, you must have. I hope NCN got a health and safety committee. So we have been working with both public sector, private sector, to resuscitate and to have them establish health and safety committee, because that will be the driver of the protection of the workers. Because the health and safety committee include management and workers. The law says they must have monthly meetings. The law says that they must have minutes of the meeting. So in the event there is some accident or something, we can go back to look at the recommendations that were made over the period by the Health and Safety Committee, so that somebody could be held accountable who did not ensure that these recommendations were put into place, right? So we have been working with people and a lot of ministries. You would want to think who would not have, So the Ministry of Foreign Affairs got Health and Safety Committee, Public Service Ministry, and Public Works said they plan to establish a quasi-department to deal with this matter. So it is, people are now recognizing the need and the importance, because your greatest asset is your workers, right? And sometimes, when I speak about this matter, a lot of people think I'm just talking about the man who's trying to kill himself at a construction site or mining. I'm talking about in the office, where, people should not be sitting on three-legged chairs, People should not be sitting in offices where the ceiling might collapse and kill them. So when I'm speaking, I hope the public is following me. I hope CEOs and people who manage in the office, they recognize Hamilton is not speaking about things that are outside the office alone. Health and safety encompasses every action in work. So the office must be as safe as the mining pit or the construction site. And I have my officers holding people to that. And these visitations are done. As I've said, there's no sacred area, whether public sector or private sector. The law is for everybody. That's my position on this matter. And I have said to officers, that is the way you have to treat it. So we have to train more persons. We have trained lots of persons. I give you an example to make this point that Vice President Jagde was making to a private sector person who was saying that they were losing staff as they trained them. That is the territory out there, right? I can tell you, we trained 14 persons at the highest level here to be lead auditors, ISO 4501. We pay this money, By the time the graduation is started, one person done gone oil and gas. And as I speak to you, in that period between then and now, at least 5 of the persons who we have trained, of the 9 around here, they have moved on, right? So we have to continue to train in all areas, and we can't be shedding tears about people leaving. My position is they are serving the wider community and the country. So they're not crying for me.
Beautiful.
I have to ensure that people are being, I hope all entities are listening to me. You have to continue to train people and retrain people. That is the only way you will continue to be relevant and competitive. So we will work with entities to have them have people trained in their business, because they also have to train people. They also have to give the opportunity to people to be trained, and they need to have more health and safety officers to protect their business. Some people see it as a cost. It's not a cost. It is helping you to save money. And the statistics are there about sickness and workplace, people out of work, how much money company lose. In my 2 years and months I spent here, it gave me a clear understanding why all my predecessors never dealt with this matter. I think the major problem is this. Co-op societies and credit unions, they came into existence in Guyana at a period when Guyana as a nation, we were toying with communism and socialism. And therefore the framework, and for the people who are still holdovers, who were participants in that time and who still run some of these things, they're still there, psychologically and mentally. I am arguing that you have to take these things and make them capitalist instruments for development. And then, when you got the type of money, you can do all the benevolent thing. You will never be able to do the benevolent thing if you don't have money. So, that is what I'm working with and on as regards co-op societies, is having them get this mental shift that this is a business you have. Just like GT&T and Digicel. You have to understand that. You have thousands of acres of land. You have large expanse of property. And you treat it like it don't matter. Let us take Melanie Old area there, what they call Visual Strip. If you quantify the holdings, we're discussing billions of dollars. But yet they treat it, and I'm just using them to make my point, they treat it like it don't matter. I can go to the one they call Desert, wherever, scheme. I'm dealing with housing co-ops. These are prime real estate. Your property value $20, $25 million, and you treat it like if it is of no consequence. So it is trying to let people appreciate the riches they have in their hand. That's the first point. And I give you an example to make that point. I had an early engagement, like months into it, with the Kuru Co-op Society, what they call New Highway. 200 people are there about gathered. And 2 hours they spent, just crying. Everything that is wrong. And then I asked them, how much land you have? 1,295 acres. And when I'm responding to them, I said, as y'all was speaking, I'm reflecting on a scripture in the Bible. I know you're poor, but yet you're rich. You understand? 1,295 acres of land. And you're crying tears. Some got out. I'm telling you, Guyanese would be shocked about the expanse of lands that are in the hands of co-op societies. I'm talking about tens of thousands of acres of land that are not productive. Well, the co-op societies, according to the books at the time, was 500 and something, which really don't exist. What I have had happen is a forensic audit of the department. Review all the files. And that report is to be made available to me. I've seen the preliminary report. When that report is made available, I would make it available to the public so that people can have an understanding of. I am having conversations with lands and surveys where many of these people got leases. Forestry Commission, more so the co-ops in Region 10, and the MME Region 5, to get a clear understanding as to the sum total of acreage co-op societies they have in their possession. So very shortly, by the end of this month, I should have all that information because we have done a forensic audit of the old scheme of things that can guide me to make some decisions that I have to make. Because I will not, under my watch, have tens of thousands of acres, which are basically government land, leased to co-op society, unproductive. We can take it and do better things with it. Food production and development, housing, and that. So that is my thoughts on this matter. Credit unions, the last number, I think, it might be about a dozen or dozen and a half, not many. But now, in conversations with credit unions, they're having a better understanding of what they should be doing. Like, I give credit to the GPSU credit union, moving from giving small loans to their members to now have where they give loans for cars at $5 million maximum, loans for houses at $15 million maximum. And that is from day one. I was saying to them, here you have people who are contributing to this thing. And if they're ready, they want to get a mortgage, they have to go to the bank where you got their money saving and pay high interest rate. Right? It could make sense. Right? So they have adjusted that, and that's a good thing. I would hope that people understand. So the development of co-op societies and so is a work in progress. Look, I was just in Linden Saturday with Minister Vikram and Minister Ben. Minister Barrett was going there to engage miners and foresters in Region 10, and he was going to carry good news to them. Right? Good news in the sense that the government will be supporting the forestry sector, more so focused on small log. The government has put in a bank $300 million. The bank is matching $600 million. So you have $900 million there, ready to support. And when he finished with the good news, I was asked to speak. I gave them the bad news. That you could dream how much you want about access to the revolving loan. If you don't put yourself in order to be transparent and accountable, all you have to do is imagine the loan. So we now have to work with them, the associations and so in Linden, Region 10, to bring them to a place where they can access the loan. LUCSL is still in the hands of an interim management committee that they're to be audited, bring all the audits up to date. So the IMC, they have a mandate, what has to be done. They are working on that, and when they will inform the Chief Co-op Development Officer as to the state and all what would happen. An annual general meeting of all members will be called, and then they can do their elections about the office bearers. So, you know this had all kind of confusion. IMC says what it means. Interim Management Committee. So for the chanters who were suggesting Hamilton take over this stuff, take over. My concern was, and I continue to reiterate, even to the IMC, is to keep the lights on the Wisma Shore. That's my concern. My concern is nothing else. And when all the people were storing there, I was consistent. I will not allow you to run this into bankruptcy and you put thousands of people in a place where the small woman who got your shop, she got chicken they're going to spoil, and people's children can't study because they have no light, and the businessman cannot run his business. So I couldn't care less about the chanters and all the protests. One concern I had, keep the lights on. And that is still my concern. And I continue to say that to the IMC. Now, I don't want the utility company. I have no need for it. What I know, once I am minister, these things will be run accountable and transparent, or the chief co-op development officer will take them because she has the authority to do that. And that is for all co-op society credit unions who are listening to me. Regarding the GPSU credit union, somehow people, the chanters again, blaming PPP, we want to take over this place. I hear R.B. Norton with some foolishness that they got, they have $2 billion in their possession and we want our hands on it. You know, somewhere in a bank somewhere, this is $2 billion Ghana. Somewhere in a bank somewhere, the state, we have 1.2 billion US dollars. So you're starting nonsense in this guy's head, right? But there was all kinds of confusion there. And somehow they try to say that PPP and Hamilton want to take this thing over for what? And what was laughable is that they consecrated and baptized known APNU PNC types and make them PPP, just to make the argument. Just to make this foolish argument. People who this whole nation knows that every day they cost PPP and PPP civic. Just to make the argument, they're saying that we, the people who running the thing, and so somehow they're PPP type, they're beholden to Hamilton, and through them, I want to take over this place. Foolishness. I couldn't tell you what is the state. I know they were in the court. I don't see that much fighting in the last several months that used to be once upon a time. But let me say this to you, because I have heard Mr. Ben, you know, I stay away from these matters because for me it's not a political matter. But I will say this to you for the public so they understand. Part of the genesis of that confusion was, I was told that Mr. Ben was the chairman of the management committee at the time. And they determined, that they needed a CEO. Mr. Ben wanted to make himself the CEO whilst being the chairman of the IMC. So he wanted to be an executive chairman. I summoned all of them here. And I said to the meeting, I will allow no one to be a man in the mirror where he's reporting to himself. However you all resolve it. That is what I'm saying, y'all. So no way, under no circumstance, these are poor people money, ordinary people money. I will not have anybody think they could run it like how it was run some time ago, where I'm told people took large sums of money and took their family on cruise in the Mediterranean and all kinds of poor people money. You understand me? So I don't see that much noise these days. I don't know. Important for me is that when I see positive things, like loans for a woman to build her house, bursary for people's children who are members, those are positive things. As I have said, the loan ceiling for car loans, and right, that is commendable in my view. But just to, you know, say, what will the PPP Civic do with the GPSU credit union? We have more important things to do. I don't want the thing, but again, I say, and I continue to make this point. If you don't run it transparent and accountable, I will have the CCDO use their powers to take it over. Well, the thing is, we have to continue training, more training. We want to focus a lot this year also on apprenticeship program. We really want to up it and expand it. As I have said, we are having interaction with companies in oil and gas, and so a primary focus of 2023 will be apprenticeship program and training across the spectrum. Labor relations, important. That means labor officers got to, training must be done. The whole issue of foreign language training for them so that they can interact with people who are not English-speaking people. Those issues we still have to pursue. Importantly, you would note that we have successfully managed labor relations because in 2 years and months, you have not had many strikes around. Only the foolishness they attempted a while ago with the teachers' union, with ministry, but generally, it was peaceful labor relations around. I think the last number I got from the CLO, we were able to have nearly 24 collective labor agreements signed between protagonists. Some of them used to talk to each other. When I came to this ministry, they had people who refused to speak to each other in 5 years, union and companies. You know, we were able to bring them together and amicably resolve matters. GT&T and their union, PTW, and I would say this, I commend GT&T, and I'll do it again. One of the most progressive, the most progressive collective labor agreement I have seen is between GTT and PTW. With a framework of a 3-year salary increase. Most importantly, it speaks beyond salaries. It speaks to training in a definitive way. And I would say this to union leaders. That is the new thinking you must have. And most of the union leaders are fossilized people. All they scream about is what you're going to pay the person. They have other important things that must be part and part. The safety of the person. You raise their salary $5,000 a day, and tomorrow they will die. What have you done for them? Nothing. So all collective labor agreement must speak not just to emoluments, it must speak definitively about safety and health, protection of workers. It must speak definitively about training for workers, capacity building for workers. And GT&T, you're not guessing about the framework. It talks about training people in the technical areas. And it speaks definitively about once people are trained, their salaries will automatically increase. So that is a very progressive collective labor agreement between the two parties. And those two parties were having squabbles forever. I came and met this squabble. When the the CEO came to introduce himself, courtesy call, I said a simple thing to him. I said, I don't know. You say you could only give 5%, the people want 9%. Both of y'all say you have an interest in the workers. Somebody could lose 2 sons, somebody could lose 2 sons. Make it 7. You follow the point? Right? This matter could be resolved. Long and short of it is that both parties listened to, and they were able to put together a collective labor agreement that is progressive in nature. There is no other like that at this moment. Oh, the money. Okay, I think there's 2-point-something billion if I remember the number. Well, we're trying to double what the allocation was, if I recall, but importantly, I think our budget for 2022 was 1-point-something billion or so. To do the work, a lot of things are in there, facilities, equipment, of course, transportation, all of those issues. Like now I was just saying to you, now we have to discuss about having boats in all the rivers because you have to go get service. Never before the Ministry of Labor even consider they should have a boat. Now, you follow me, ATVs for some places, that is the preferred transportation mode. So there's a radical change as regards facilities that you need to run the ministry. Of course, we have Board of Industrial Training. whilst they're a department, they get a subvention from the ministry. So there's a request because of the training that we want to do. And as I said, the apprenticeship programs that we want to expand. As I speak to you, tomorrow or sometime, we're supposed to be signing up with the manganese company and the Demarara Arbor Bridge to allow for apprentices. Because first we have to make the company a master, and then we can send apprentices there. So I will hope that the Ministry of Finance, Minister of Finance, is favorable to our requests, and so that we can utilize it for development. If you note, this place is a different place. If you would note, so the facilities are already as regards the physical facility. Now we have to furnish and all of those things. My idea is to have a complex here, a labor complex where everything that has to do with running the ministry, and then of course we have the regional offices. Never before. Some instances we have to rent facilities. Some instances we have to rehabilitate facilities that might be given to us by government agencies. Some instances we have to build a facility. We are given a piece of land, like take for New Amsterdam. We are given a piece of land by the town council. Quarantine, we are given a piece of land by the Caribbean Town Council. Madhya, we are given a piece of land by the town council there, Madhya Town Council. So all of those things are requests as regards infrastructure development. The Board of Industrial Training itself, the office, need to be expanded, need to be upgraded. The staff are walking on each other there. So those are requests as regards the big ticket matters. And of course, we have to put a lot of more money into training of staff and retraining and development. We have to develop information technology center and facility here so that we can digitize and all of our things readily labor, all the files that you have. People should not be going into large container or whatever they have there to look for this and that. So that is what we are doing here, and we hope that, as I said, the Ministry of Finance will look favorable on our request to allow us to continue the work that was started. Importantly, at the end of the day, every day I make the point, it is giving service to people. Worst thing you can do is send back money that was appropriated to do things to the consolidated fund. Two things it does. One, it puts you in a bad place when you're making a request the following year. And secondly, you would have denied services to people because that money is budgeted on a line item, let us say, training. If you're sending back millions of dollars, it means that several people who should have been trained were not trained. I just use that line item to make the point. And for me, I don't take that lightly. And therefore, I rather the budget is gasping for gas. And then, somebody telling me how diligent the shepherded the money that they could send back how much millions or hundreds of millions. And all ministers, that is the way I'm sure they operate. All ministers, they think that way. So I think all in all, going back, answering your question at the end of it, about satisfaction, at the level of the minister, at the level of the ministry itself, we are satisfied that we have done well over the period, coming from where we are starting. I suspect the public also, because I have seen enough testimonies and testimonials from entities and people who commend the ministry for the job we are doing and we continue to do. We have engaged, all and sundry, because this is not, the minister and ministry alone cannot do it. I engaged faith-based organization, youth, women, or whichever, whoever want to collaborate to ensure that people can have access to training. That is how I will continue to develop this ministry. And as I said to people, I have one dream. When I leave this place here, I would have helped to develop the most robust labor ministry in the history of Ghana.
Highlights,
Insight.
reports.
Updates.
This is the progress.
Progress.
The progress report.